We have not done this in a long time. We haven't been back here in a long time, so it's sweet. Sweet to have you here with us today. We've got a lot of incredible, dedicated public servants standing here with me today, some of them on a citizen volunteer basis. And I want to thank you all. I'm flattered and honored that I get to work with each of you. I'm glad you came out today. Councilmember, Council Chair Fowler, thank you for being with us. We've got members from our Commission on Racial Equity and Policing. Thank you for being here with us. Lisa Demmons, in the middle, Chief Lieb, another Deputy Chief. Jerry Philpott there, Detective McBride, Chief Brown, Chief Purvis. Tierlake, thank you for being here today. Salt Lake City's employees face challenges and circumstances that no other city in the state come close to. I think that's undeniable after what we experienced last year, but it's been the truth the whole time. And the Salt Lake City Council and I agree that our employees should be compensated for that top of the market work that they do. And unfortunately, over the years, really years and multiple administrations, many of our employees' wages haven't kept up with the regional market. And today, I'm pleased to announce that our city is taking a major step forward in correcting a pay discrepancy with all three unions that represent hundreds, even thousands of Salt Lake City employees: AFSCME, IAFF Local 8, and the SLPA. The city has proposed memorandums of understanding to each of the unions that would immediately bring pay grades up to a more competitive level rather than gradually increasing them over future years of negotiations. I'm pleased to announce that already SLPA and AFSCME members have voted to approve these agreements, and I look forward to the firefighters hopefully doing so very soon. In the past, the city has simply put a small percentage of increase on the table to the unions and said, take it or leave it. Whatever short-term financial gains the city might have earned from this approach came at the expense of declining employee morale and retention. And it's no wonder that higher paying jobs in neighboring municipalities have looked so appealing. Since it costs more for us to hire and train new employees than it does to retain an existing employee, it's the city that ultimately loses out, and the strategy of nickel and diming our talented and committed workers hurts us in the end. So over many years of doing this, some of our wages have neither kept pace with the regional market, nor do they reflect the realities of the workload that we expect from our people. If we, as a city, want the best employees, we can't pay them below the market. We just can't. When Taylorsville announces that it needs to staff its brand new police department and it's paying between 5 and 23% more than we do, of course some of our officers are going to go join and take that opportunity, and many of them did. When a water meter technician or a plans examiner can get 10% more in salary by going to a neighboring other jurisdiction, they're doing it. And it really makes it hard to keep our systems functioning and serve our people the way they deserve to be served. Salt Lake City can't afford to continue losing the fight for best public servants, and I don't know about you, but I'm tired of training people and paying to have them trained and then having them poached by other cities. This take it or leave it strategy changes today. This is a long overdue correction, and I'm proud to have worked with the City Council to finally make it happen. The American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, also known as AFSCME, represents the backbone of Salt Lake City departments, with employees spanning from our airports to our fleet, our cemetery, our maintenance crews, waste and recycling workers, and our 911 dispatchers, just to name a few. AFSCME's employees help keep Salt Lake City running, and there's never been a more complicated or a more challenging year to do that work in, with incredible alterations to the working conditions related to COVID-19. Jerry Philpott back here leads that union. Jerry, thank you. Your Salt Lake City members have remained dedicated to our needs as a capital city through perhaps the most difficult time in Salt Lake City's history. And my hope is that being able to increase their pay by 4.5% this year alone will make a meaningful impact in their day-to-day lives and ensure that they're going to continue doing the incredible work that they do and bring their institutional knowledge and expertise to bear on the good work of Salt Lake City every day. The salary level should put the majority of our AFSCME employees near or at the very top of the market. Lisa Demon and Chief Lieb, the Salt Lake City Fire Department is the best of the best. We've asked so much of them in the past year, and they were integral in keeping our city safe through a pandemic, an earthquake, a windstorm, and so many more unseen emergencies. They have complex and demanding jobs. More often than not, our firefighters are going in the direction of danger, not away from it, because that's what we ask of them. Because of the work they do in an effort to ensure that our firefighters are paid at the top of the local market, the city's presented the IAFF Local 8 with an MOU that would bring the firefighters' wages up to the top of the market for the region. That amounts to a 4% across-the-board increase this year. We believe this adjustment will not only help us retain our already best-in-class crews that operate in Salt Lake City, but also attract the best and help us continue providing city residents the best emergency services in the state of Utah. And as the city's leaders, our most important responsibility is keeping Salt Lake City residents, businesses, and visitors safe. That's our bottom line. But we can't do it without the well-trained and really well-motivated police officers. There's been plenty of news coverage over the last year about police officers who have left our department. But what most people don't understand is this isn't a problem that's exclusive to Salt Lake City. Just about every other major city in the United States of America is having a hard time retaining police right now. Seattle has lost 219 officers in the last year. In April, Portland reported nearly 140 vacancies on its force. Between New Year's Day and the end of April, the city of Austin saw 62 officers leave the department. Retirements in New York City surged 72% last year. Asheville, North Carolina has lost a quarter of its police force. And nationally, police departments have seen a 45% increase in retirements and an 18% increase in resignations. This is a national problem. And so with 63 vacancies in our own department and growing concerns over what it means for officer safety and their ability to respond for calls for service, it is important to make Salt Lake City Police Department pay more competitive so that we can attract and retain the best officers possible. Salt Lake City deserves the best police department in the country, one that's committed to getting better every day, and that's why we are the best. We can't do that while we're paying officers as much as 10% less than other local governments, not to mention the decrease in the workload. 7 local governments here in Utah currently pay a higher top-out rate than we do. And as a city, we've now moved to correct that, and we've offered the SLPA an MOU that would bring officers' wages up to the top of market for our region plus 1%. That amounts to an increase of about 30% for our entry-level officers and 12% for our officers who are at the top of their pay scale. This is a bold market adjustment that has been years in the making. And it's really to avoid what is becoming a public safety threat to our city. I know that there's some who will be angry about this decision, but there's a reason that leaders from our city's Commission on Racial Equity and Policing have backed this offer, and why members of the commission are standing here with us today. This is a necessary step to do the work that they are helping direct and to keep our city safe. My message to our Salt Lake City police officers is that this is the best police department in the state, and that's because each of you has come to work every day in the last year ready to do your best for our residents under incredible circumstances. You've been willing to evolve and to grow to meet new needs. And you've been dedicated to the safety of our residents. Thank you. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. I also have a message to police officers around the state who are thinking about making a move. The best trained and the most professional police department in the state is also about to become the highest paying police department. And we're hiring. So check us out, slcpd.com. The work I've announced today is a step in the right direction, and I'm grateful for these incredible people who stand here with me today recognizing this necessary and critical step. Our employees are the best. They help bring our city to life. They keep us rolling. Salt Lake City is Utah's biggest city. It's our capital city. And its employees should be compensated at the top of the local market for that hard work that they do. While today's changes address our union-represented employees, my administration is also beginning a process of reviewing the pay of employees who are not represented by unions and addressing pay discrepancies across the board. This will take some hard work, but City Council has shown that they are also dedicated to this work with us, and it's the right thing to do. It sets our city up to be a stronger, a more safe, and a more resilient community. Thanks for being here today. I'm happy to take any questions, and I think that these individuals we'd like to just do separately if you have any questions that you have for them.
Mayor, I just want to make sure I hear you right. You said 13 or 30% for entry level?
30.
30%, and then
It's
12%.
approximately 30%.
Okay, 12% for senior level. What do you say to people who see these increases amid this, harsh political environment? Derek Chauvin was just sentenced today. Do you expect blowback for raising pay for police?
Let me be clear. The most important job of every city is to keep its residents and its businesses and visitors safe. On top of that, we've enacted the largest reforms that have ever happened in this Salt Lake City Police Department. And all the while, our fire department, our AFSCME workers have also evolved the way that they work to meet the growing needs of our capital city in record time. Decreasing the funding for a department who is already struggling to retain and recruit officers as it relates to our police department is an illogical and a backward step. Defunding the police isn't something that I've ever supported, and I think the people behind me would agree that in order to make the changes that we want and need to make together, and just to do the fundamental work of answering the calls for service that this city asks our officers to do, we can't do that with fewer people. And we're seeing the results of that with 63 officers down today.
Mayor, many will not relate to the same question, but I did speak with representatives from Black Lives Matter in Utah today, and they say they are disappointed with the raising in the budget for the police department and with these proposed raises. Do you have a message for Black Lives Matter?
So Salt Lake City, as I said, we've already enacted a substantial amount of reforms, and that work of evaluation and reform will continue hand in hand with the police department who does the work and the Commission on Racial Equity and Policing, in addition to Coletta Lynch's work out of our office with our new equity directives. That is ongoing and will be a perpetual part of Salt Lake City government. What you're seeing from the Commission on Racial Equity and Policing core commissioners who have supported this move unilaterally is a recognition for the people who are actually looking at what that work is. What does it take to have the best trained, and not just trained and done, but a department that is continually evolving in their training, that's learning from the community, learning from community members, as the commission recently recommended to the city council and myself to take to the police department. We can't do that if we aren't actually able first to answer the calls for service that come through 911. That's our fundamental job. Building the most equitable police department that serves all of its residents as safely and equitably as possible, that's what we're here to achieve. And we're going to have the best talent in the state of Utah to help us achieve that.
Well, and based off of posts that the Salt Lake Police Association have made, they've kind of implied that some of the recent police departures is a lack of feeling of support. Do you think that raising the wages is enough to
We do exit interviews with those officers who've chosen to leave, some for other departments, others who have wholly left the work of policing entirely. And we do believe that this is a significant step forward. And I think you see that by the representation from the Police Association that's here today and the vote to support it by their membership.
Where will the money be coming from to pay for this, and how much will it cost the city?
It's about $9.1 million, and the City Council met on Monday, convened a special meeting and opened that work session up and decided and voted unanimously to allocate that money for our administration to work with and make these offers. It came from fund balance.
Mayor Mendenhall, what's a good timeline to start to see some of these positions filled?
Well, we had 0 lateral officers looking to come to Salt Lake City last week. We already have officers lining up, trying to come over. The pay increases, because we're on a fiscal year budget, start across the board on July 1. So we're hiring now.
Could you describe us how the negotiations went this year? Were there tough moments? How did you finally agree on these numbers?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about the negotiations?
2020 was not a year of growth for this city or any other city, so we weren't able to come to any of our employees with any pay increase, and we were looking at a revenue shortfall. So that hopefully anomalous year really gave us an opportunity to set the course to actually have true negotiations with our labor unions, which, as I've said, isn't something that we have done. We haven't approached a compensation philosophy as a capital city in a very long time, and we wanted to have a true negotiation, not a leftover scraps budget conversation with our unions. It took longer than it typically does, and we're going to make some process adjustments together so that that isn't the case next year. But as you know, city councils on fiscal year budgets are required to finalize the budget by the middle of June, which our council did a week ago last Tuesday. And the negotiations weren't finalized with any of the unions at that point. So we'll do better to align those timelines next year. Does that answer your question, Katie?
Were there tough moments with the unions, or was this a year where you were starting to do more employees?
I've been in negotiations in a lot of different settings, although I don't do those negotiations with our union representatives. We have an expert who does that, and every good negotiation is tough sometimes.
Do we know if crime went up during this high turnover rate?
I would love to have one of these people from the police department or Chief Brown answer that for you off the top of my head, because of the different ways you can look at different parts of crime. I don't feel like I can answer that off the top of my head for you. Anybody else? And then we'll break up and you can do individuals if you'd like. Thanks.
Is there any concern that these substantial pay raises might attract people who are more in it for the money and not good for anything?
Well, we have a pretty stringent recruitment process, and that's something that our recruiters and our application and our interview process